Hey, friend. Today is a pretty exciting day for me because one of my favorite companies is releasing a brand new product. Well, they're technically not releasing it. They've announced a brand new product that will be released later this year. And they're opening it up as a Kickstarter, which gives us an opportunity to check out the product, invest in it, pre-order it, and then they'll be delivering the product when it goes into production later this year. And I wanted to talk to you about it a little bit because it's sort of one of the things when it comes to photography gear that I spend a lot of time obsessing about, and that is tripods. Um, the company that I'm talking about, of course, is Peak Design, and if you've come anywhere near a photography blog or website today, you've probably seen this announcement because everybody's been eagerly awaiting this for the past couple weeks when it was announced to uh, people that are affiliates for Peak Design and people who are in the photography media. We've been sitting on this for a couple weeks, but now we get to show everybody, and the Kickstarter's gone live, and it's pretty exciting. But anyway, what it is right here. I put it up on my desktop here for us to look at. It is a compact travel tripod, and it's taken them 4 years to design this tripod. And it is from Peak Design, and if you know me at all, you know that I really like Peak Design products. Most of their products I really like. They're known, for most people, they're known for their bags, but they actually started as a hardware company. And their first products were their capture clips, which were these kind of interesting clips that you put on your belt or your backpack shoulder strap that your camera plate can lock into. And it's a safe carry solution if you want to carry your camera on the outside of your bag, for quick access. And when they started developing those plates years and years and years ago, it's launched their company, and then they branched off into camera bags and straps and camera covers. And so I've got a lot of Peak Design products. In fact, I'm embarrassed to say I have most of Peak Design's product line. The things that I don't like the capture clip, but I know a lot of people that love it. I think it's just a personal preference thing. There's nothing wrong with the design of it. But when they came to build the tripod, they actually slowed way down, and they said, we got to do this right. It's a very complicated process. And I appreciate them doing that because tripods, for a lot of companies, they think it's easy. And they put out a tripod that has no innovation whatsoever. It's just 3 tubes that fasten to a junction in the middle, and you bolt a ball head on the top and call it good. Peak Design, the designers at Peak Design, really wanted to redefine the travel tripod. And I think they've done a pretty good job. So I'm going to walk through the product and kind of point out some of the features that I think are interesting and some of the features I'm really curious about. And when I say curious, I mean a little bit skeptical. But I will say this, it's Peak Design, and I know that they don't do anything without thinking it through first. And so I want to get my hands on one of these units before I really judge it. And so I'll tell you my thoughts on it, but until we all get them in our hot hands, we're not really going to know. So let's start with the basics. The price, which is going to be the first question a lot of people have. There's 2 versions, and if you look here at the picture, the one on the right is the darker one is aluminum, and the one on the left is carbon fiber. They have identical feature sets. They all have the same ball head. They have the same locks on the legs. They have the same, everything is the same except for the material that the leg sections are made out of. So the carbon fiber tripod is going to be a little bit lighter. The aluminum tripod is going to be a little bit more sturdy, I'm going to guess, because aluminum doesn't bend and flex as much as carbon fiber. So the question is, do you want to sacrifice a little bit of weight savings for a little bit of stability? And the answer that I would say comes down to price. You can buy a lot for the extra $100 and some that you'll pay for the carbon fiber version. You could go on a nice weekend somewhere maybe and have some fun. The aluminum version isn't that much lighter. We're only talking about 1 pound between the two. Neither of them are very heavy. They're both very small. They're both very lightweight pieces of kit. the question is, how much, are you willing to spend for a travel tripod? I would not consider this my main tripod. I would consider this one that you grab and go if you're going to go maybe on a photo walk or going to go out and do some city photography. This is a great tripod because it'll fit in your bag. It's not going to bump into anybody. It's unobtrusive. And it is truly compact. It's not going to be hanging off the side of your bag and snagging on things. So when you're passing through crowds of people or in a busy situation on maybe a bus or a train, this tripod's going to not be a problem. Whereas a normal size tripod, especially a larger landscape tripod, gets to be almost like a weapon. You've got this big long thing you're carrying around. So I see this answering that problem. So let's go on and look at some of the other photos here. The Peak Design people sent me all these photos to help promote their product, and I will say up front that I am a Peak Design affiliate, which means that if you purchase something from them using the link that I'll provide you in this email and in the video description, I get a commission, and I appreciate that. It does help me buy this gear. Basically, all my commissions go right back to the products, and so I'll end up buying one of these tripods, and if I earn some money, I'll put it towards the purchase of the tripod. So let's look at a couple of things and dig into the features here. First of all, we'll look at this photo, which will give you an idea of the size of this tripod. This is an average human hand, I'm assuming. And so this tripod is not huge, and the design feature that was really important for them was the width of the folded shape. And most tripods have a lot of empty space, right? So you have the legs, and then you've got these gaps, and there's a lot of air. You can see right through the middle of a folded tripod, and you can see all that air. And if you're packing it in checked baggage, for instance, that's a lot of space. And a lot of times when I'm traveling, if I'll check my large tripod, I'll end up stuffing clothes in between all those empty gaps just to take up all that empty space. And in this case, they've gone and designed the legs so that the shape of the leg tubing itself allows them to collapse it into a smaller, more compact shape. And this photo right here actually helps you see that pretty well. If you look at the shape of the legs, they're not round. They're almost trapezoidal shape. They're a rounded trapezoid, if you will. And they wrap around that center column, and they join very tightly. And so it's a very compact bundle. And I think that's very appealing to me. When you're stuffing it in the side pocket of a pack, or if you have to carry it in your hands, this tripod is going to be easy to do that with either. So the other thing I'll point out here, this is one of my things, is these flip lock leg locks. I've not been a fan of flip locks for a long time. I've been an advocate for the twist lock legs, which you find on Really Right Stuff tripods and Gitsos and most of the higher end tripods. Peak Design went this route because it's quicker. And I will say that the flip locks are nice. You can see here the person's hand is able to grab all four and flip them open, and then you extend the legs out and then you lock them up. I will say that this style of flip lock that I can see from just looking at this photo, I haven't used this product yet, but looking at this photo, this style of flip lock does look pretty robust. And I know that Peak Design does not skimp on materials. So the hardware here is going to be aluminum. It's going to be anodized aluminum. It's going to be stuff with stainless steel fasteners. It's going to be stuff that really is meant to be used outdoors and used roughly, and I'm guessing that these lever locks are carefully milled and aren't sloppy little plastic levers that are going to break off. But I do worry about how they get caught on things, and one of the concerns that I sometimes have with lever locks is you have your tripod set up and maybe you catch your clothes or a camera strap or something on one of the lever locks and flip it open. These look like they positively lock and they wrap around the leg joint. So, it's going to be harder to snag those, but they do protrude a little bit. So this is one of the areas where I'm looking at this design and going, okay, my jury is still out on that. So let's go and look at another one. This is the critical thing to know about a tripod is how small do the leg sections get as you get down to the bottom, because they have to fit inside one another. And so with round tubing, especially smaller carbon fiber tripods, sometimes these lower sections are the size of a pencil, and that is really small and fragile. Even with something as durable as carbon fiber, those lower leg sections, if they're fully extended and they're 10, 12 inches long, and you fall on that or accidentally step on it, you can break those, whether they be aluminum or carbon fiber. One of the things that makes me feel better about how small these are on the Peak Design is that they're not round. This shape, this trapezoidal shape, is going to have more structural integrity. Whether you use the aluminum or the carbon fiber, the tubing itself has a lot of strength, but then the way it's shaped is going to contribute to the strength. And a round is a fairly strong shape, but if you put shear force against it, falling on it or something, it can kink and then it fails. This looks like it's a shape that maybe would be harder to damage that way. So remains to be seen. It's still fairly small, those lower leg sections, but like I said, to make something compact, you want something that folds up to be short and small. You need to have pretty small components there. So let's look at this thing fully opened up. We'll get to the specs in a little bit. I'll open the spec sheet and we'll talk about the specifications. But I will say this tripod is high enough with the column down. So the center column in this shot is all the way down and the head is on top of the spider, which is where the legs come together, or the pelvis, I call it sometimes. The height of this is actually high enough that if you have an articulating screen, it's going to put it about belly to mid-chest, depending on how tall you are. And that's a good height. That's a really comfortable height to use with an articulating screen. If you don't have an articulating screen, it's kind of a hard height to bend down and look through the viewfinder on. So think about how you use your camera, whether you prefer to look through the viewfinder or look at the screen. The type of photography you do, if you like to shoot lower, you're doing macro work or you're doing low angle stuff, then having a shorter tripod like this that can collapse down really small is really a plus. And so I think from looking at this, the shape and the size of it is really great for travel. It's really a good compromise between compact stowability and usability when it's fully set up. So going back to the low angle stuff, you do have the opportunity to reverse the center column, which is always nice. If you want to do straight down macro work or product photography, this is a great tool for taking photos of other photos. If you're an artist, in fact, I know some of my good friends are painters and sketch artists. If you want to duplicate your work, this is with a high-end camera, this is a great way to set it up. And so it's nice to have a reversible center column. I'm glad Peak Design has enabled that. The other thing about the center column, which is really interesting, is it's got a hook at the bottom. And I always think this is super important, especially with the lightweight tripod. If you're trying to do any long exposure work, you want that tripod to be rock steady. And if you can hang your bag under it, it gets the bag off your back, which is nice, but it also adds lowers the center of gravity and pulls that tripod down and makes it more stable, as long as that bag isn't swinging around in the wind, right? And so they have a hook here, which is great. But the hook unlocks and comes out, and underneath it, or I should say behind it, inside the tube is a really clever little phone holder. And this device is always there. It's stowed in the center column. You can pull it out, put your iPhone on it, and mount it on the ball head. So if you wanted to do some live video or take video with your iPhone is a wonderful video camera. Even do still photography. You can do long exposure work with your iPhone now. This allows you to use the travel tripod with a mobile device like an iPhone. And I think it's a really nice option to have. It doesn't require you to carry anything extra. It's built in, it's stowed inside the tripod, and if you don't want to ever use it, you probably wouldn't know it was there. If you want to save yourself a couple ounces and not carry it in the center column, it'd probably save you a couple grams anyway. So there you go. It's a nice little option, and it is designed to hold a phone with a case, which is great, and it is expandable, so it'll take different sizes of phones. Very cool, and a nice little added bonus by the Peak Design guys and gals who are really clever. I talked about hanging your bag. So there's a picture of the bag hanging. This is a really preferred method. I do this a lot with my stuff, and you're able to hang your bag. It really does add some extra stability to these lighter weight tripods. So let's talk about the ball head, because ball heads are tricky business, and they have really thrown out tradition and gone with something that I think is really innovative. And I see a few things in this design that really excite me. One is it's very low profile. Ball heads, by their nature, tend to be fairly tall. In fact, the smallest ball head I have is like 4 inches tall. And when you put that on top of your tripod, which is where they tend to live, right? Most of us mount a ball head on a tripod and we leave it there. That you've just added 4 inches or more to the length of your tripod when you're carrying it around. And what they've done here is they've designed this so that the ball is down low. It's actually underneath the head, if you will. And it's on top of the center column. And when you drop the center column down, the ball goes right down into the pocket that's formed by the joints of the legs coming up and joining with the center column. The head itself is designed to sort of nest down and cover this whole area so that when everything is stowed, it's all protected and solid and very, very compact. And I'm really impressed by that. But when you bring the center column up a few inches, you basically cover this ball and you free up the head for movement. And there's a big lock ring. And this is the thing I probably like the most about this ball head design, is it's got this big lock ring. So instead of a knob sticking out that's in the way, you've got a ring, and you grab it and you twist to the left to unlock, twist to the right to tighten it down. And it's rated to hold up to 20 pounds, which is a significant amount of gear. If you're using a 600 millimeter f4 lens, shooting birds or something like that, it's probably not the tripod for you. But if you're using a mirrorless system or even a full-size DSLR with average lenses, you're not going to have any problem with this head and its stability. So let's look a little bit about how the camera connects to the head. The Peak Design system is based on a square plate that fits inside their capture clip. I don't use these plates. I use an L bracket on all my cameras, but this head also will take an Arca Swiss plate. You just have to remove these two little screws that are in the top of the head. Let's see if I can find a picture of that. There we go, probably here. So these little pins that stick up, those the tripod comes with a hex key, and you can pull those pins out, and that allows you to use an L bracket with the head. You can see here that the clamp on top of this little platform will take an Arca Swiss style plate, which is what I prefer, and I think it's what a lot of photographers use. So going back to how this mounts, there's a little thumb release, a little lever, and you place the front dovetail of your of your plate in the front of the clamp, and then you drop the back down and this little clip will engage it. And then there's a little locking ring. And I think this is pretty clever, because one of the challenges that we've always had with security, once your camera is mounted to your tripod, is there's usually either a screw knob or a big old lever that you have to lock down, a camming lever. And that is what's holding your camera onto your tripod. And if it gets loose, your camera is going to come off. Now here they've got this, positive click. It's seated in the clamp, and then you slide this little very discreet lever over, and you've got a marking there. You can see it next to the thumb here in the picture. It's locked, and then you slide it over, and it's unlocked. And so you can look down and see whether your camera's locked or not. You don't have to fiddle with the dial or something like that to figure that out. There's nothing to snag. It seems to me to be a very elegant solution, and I do appreciate that. And I think it's going to work out pretty well. So that's how your camera clamps. There's that big ring to twist to loosen the head and allow it to pivot around on the ball. which is exposed. And that's another thing I wanted to mention here. When you have an exposed ball, if you get sand on it or you get any kind of grit, you simply rinse it off. You just put it under fresh water, rinse it off. Anytime I use my tripods in around salt water, I end up rinsing it off with fresh water to make sure there's no salt getting into any of the metal parts to cause corrosion. And here you've got this anodized aluminum ball, and the clamps are these prongs that come down along the sides, but the ball itself is exposed, which would allow you to clean it. And I think that's really nice. In a contained ball head where the ball's inside of a cup, you get stuff down in there, it's really almost impossible to get any grit out of those. You can flush it all day with water and that grit may not come out. So here's a more serviceable design. And I will go back to this. This is something that they state in their literature. They say that the tripod is fully field serviceable, which is a wonderful thing. I'm looking at the lever locks and all of the joints and the fasteners, and they're all openable with a hex key, or serviceable with a hex key, which comes with the tripod. It's probably the same hex key you would use to fasten your plate to your camera, and so it's one that we should have in our bag anyway. And it looks to me like you'd probably be able to take this tripod apart and clean it down to the smallest bits pretty easily. The parts that we don't see that are really, it's going to be us getting this tripod in our hands before we know, is how do the pieces inside the leg sections that clamp down on the leg sections, how are those put together? Are there little pieces that are easily lost or damaged? I'm going to guess that that the answer to that is no, that Peak Design has thought this through, and if they say something is serviceable by the user, that they mean that it's not going to fall apart if you take it apart, and you're going to lose the little pieces and you'll be done. So that said, there we go. So let's talk about the specs and let's talk about the pricing on this. So there's a spec sheet here I'm going to open up. It's a really exciting design, and I want to talk about the specs. And I'm not going to compare it to a regular tripod, quote unquote regular tripod, because I really do feel like this tripod is aimed directly at people who travel, who are in and out of airplanes, who don't want to check a bag, and want to be able to carry a tripod on the side of their bag without it being a problem or having any TSA agent go, "What is that?" and grab it. They really have done a great job here. So here's what you get. In the box, you're going to get the tripod, which includes the head. And the head is not detachable. It's not one of those things where you could take it off and put a really right stuff head or something on there. So you're buying a package deal here. It comes with a soft case, which it's shown quickly in the Kickstarter video, but it looks to be just a zippered soft case, which is great if you want to carry it on the side pocket of your pack and not have it exposed to the elements. It's got a standard plate, which is that little square plate that mounts on the bottom of your camera. It comes with that mobile mount and the load hook, and then they give you a couple of different hex wrenches and a bushing removal tool. And the bushings are the parts inside the legs that squeeze on the legs when you activate the clamp. And so they give you everything you need to take these tripods apart and clean them. So here's the really important spec: weight. The alloy, which is aluminum alloy, is 3.44 pounds. That is pretty darn light for a tripod. And the carbon is 2.81 pounds. So we're talking about less than a pound of difference between the two tripods. For me, you got to really want that carbon fiber, the look of the carbon fiber, or maybe you live in a cold environment and you don't want to have your hands on those aluminum legs because they're cold. I get that. The carbon fiber is a little more comfortable that way. Otherwise, man, if you're just looking at weight and price, you're going to go with the alloy, I think. So the weight capacity is 20 pounds, and that's a pretty, I was kind of skeptical of this number from any company, but that's a pretty high amount. I'll be curious to see how stable it is with that much weight on it. So the length, when it's all collapsed down, it's 15.5 inches long. Just great. It's a very nice size. There are smaller tripods out there that go down around a foot long, but they do not expand that much. They're still small when they're fully expanded. Here's the interesting one. The max diameter is only 3.25 or 3.25 inches around, so about the size of a water bottle. The maximum height with the center column raised, so this is as tall as the thing can get, is 5 feet, 60 inches. And that's, that's not super high, but even if you don't have an articulating screen, if you're, under 6 feet tall, it's not an uncomfortable height to bend down and look through. With the center column down, which is typically how I would use it, it's 51.25 inches high. But because of the way the ball head's designed, you're going to have that center column up a few inches if you want to use the head. So, you're looking at the mid-50s range, 55 inches, 56 inches belly height, which is belly to chest height, which is perfect for a travel tripod, I think. The minimum height, so as low as it can go, is 5.5 inches. So if you want to spread it out and get down to the ground, that's pretty good. And again, you can invert the center column and drop it down and get even lower if you want. There are 5 leg sections, and the leg locks, whether you use the carbon fiber version or the aluminum version, are all aluminum pieces. So, the only concern I have about aluminum is corrosion, and around saltwater specifically. And I would have to say that I probably wouldn't be taking this tripod out and putting it in the ocean like I do with my big Gitzo tripod. And the reason for that is because there's a lot of aluminum in this. It's anodized aluminum, so it is protected, but I'd still be careful with this around saltwater. Materials. So the ball head, the hub, the load lock are all this powder-coated A380 aluminum, which is a high-quality aluminum. The legs are anodized 6061 T6 aluminum alloy, which is a not pure aluminum. It's aluminum alloy, so it's light but strong. And then if you opt for the carbon fiber, you get the carbon effing fiber, which is pretty clever of them to throw that in there. All right, so those are the specs. So what are the prices? So if you go on the Kickstarter page, and please use my link down below if you want to go back this Kickstarter. If you go on the Kickstarter page, you can watch the video about the tripod. You can read about them right here. And here are your 2 options. If you want to pay $289, you get the aluminum tripod. It's going to retail for $350 when it's released at the end of the year. If you want to pay $480 or $479, you get the carbon fiber. I really, really, really think that for $190, is that right? Yeah. Almost $200 more for carbon fiber. It is not worth it for the carbon fiber. I'm going to order the aluminum one. I think that the weight difference being less than a pound, there's no other functional differences other than the cold factor of the carbon fiber versus aluminum on your hands. And I usually wear gloves if it's that cold. So for me, it's a no-brainer. It's go for the aluminum one. $289 for a full functioning tripod ball head combination is a pretty darn good deal, especially for something that's this compact and this well thought out. So I think it's a pretty good deal. If you don't need a travel tripod, or you're happy with your full-size tripod and you don't find yourself trying to carry on tripods on airplanes and things like that, then don't get this. But I do think it's a pretty innovative product, and I'm pretty excited about it, and I do like the company Peak Design. So let me talk a little bit about Kickstarters. If you've never done a Kickstarter, if you've never backed a Peak Design product, Peak Design is an established company. They've been around for a long time. They've made a lot of products, and this is their 9th Kickstarter. And a lot of people go, well, why do they need to kickstart the product if they're an established company? Peak Design uses Kickstarter because it gives them the ability to pre-order all of their initial run of products. So the more you make in a manufacturing sense, the more you make, the less it costs, and the better materials you can use and things like that. So what they've done is they've put this on Kickstarter. They'll run the Kickstarter for 60 days or 58 days, it looks like. They'll close it out. They'll make their initial order. And then the process will start where they'll manufacture it. one of the risks with Kickstarter, if you're going back, most Kickstarter projects, you oftentimes will run the risk that that product won't actually ever be made. That is not going to happen with Peak Design. They have never not delivered. In fact, they almost always, I can't think of a single time where they actually delivered after the deadline. So they're saying that this product will be out in December of this year. I would be surprised if we don't see it in November. So I expect to see these products come to our mailboxes in November. They've never failed to deliver on a Kickstarter, so I would not worry about that whatsoever. They're a known company. They make great products. I stand behind their products. They stand behind their products with amazing customer service. So I would say that I have zero concerns about investing in this product. That said, it's up to you. There is risk, but it's so minimal with Peak Design. There's other companies out there that are on Kickstarter that pretty famously have not followed through, and if you give your money to Kickstarter and they don't follow through, it's gone. But this is the case. Just consider it a pre-order and you're all set. It is a long time to go without your money before you get the product, but you get it at a discount. You can always wait, pay a little bit more for it at full retail when it comes out later this year, and taking zero risk. So it's up to you. All right, thank you so much. It's been a longer video than I thought, but it's tripods, and I love to talk about tripods. So I'm watching the number here go up. They're almost to $1 million. So it's just crazy. The Peak Design products are incredibly popular for a good reason. It's a great company that makes great stuff. So feel free to back the project using my link below, and if you do, I do get a little bit of an affiliate commission, and I appreciate that. And if you have any questions or anything, please let me know in the comments. Thank you so much. Have a good day.